the sparks of rebellion, the American Revolution. Close your eyes for a second. Think of the modern world. Think of the global internet, the movies you watch, the tech in your pocket, the very language you're using to understand this video. Now imagine it all. Just gone. It's 1763 and the map of the world looks completely different. There is no United States. There is no American dream. There is no McDonald's. Truly the darkest timeline. What if the 13 colonies had just stayed quiet? What if they'd accepted the taxes, bowed to the crown, and remained just another collection of colonies like any other? Would the world be a safer, more stable place? Or would we be living in a reality where the sun never sets on a total, unchecked monarchy? And everyone drinks warm tea with absolutely no complaints. Today, we aren't just talking about dusty dates and guys in powdered wigs. Though there will be powdered wigs, and honestly, respect for the commitment. We're talking about the moment humanity decided it had had enough. The day the world changed forever. The end of salutary neglect. For a long time, Britain played the role of the cool, hands-off landlord. They called it salutary neglect. They basically left the colonies alone to make their own money and run their own lives, as long as the gold kept flowing back to London. It was the perfect setup, like a roommate who pays rent on time and never touches your food. Beautiful, ideal, gone forever. Because then came the 7 Years' War. Britain won and gained significant territory, but they emerged from it absolutely drowning in debt. Like someone who won a poker tournament, but somehow still owes everyone in the room money. So King George III looked across the Atlantic, saw the colonies doing relatively okay, and had a thought. That thought was, your problem now. Then came the Proclamation of 1763. Now, this wasn't just a random power move. After Pontiac's rebellion, Britain needed to manage its fragile relationship with Native American tribes on the frontier, who had been living on and defending that land for centuries before any European showed up with a flag and a misplaced sense of ownership. So Britain drew a line down the Appalachians and told colonists, you can't settle beyond it. Imagine training for a marathon for years and the night before the race, someone puts up a wall at the starting line and says, new policy. The colonists didn't just lose their expansion. They lost their patience. And honestly, can you blame them? No taxation without representation. Then came the Stamp Act of 1765. Britain decided to tax every single piece of paper. Newspapers, legal documents, even a deck of cards. Yes, they taxed cards. The British Empire, arguably the most powerful force on the planet, decided that what it really needed was a cut of your Friday night poker game. The colonists were already struggling, and now they were being nickel and dimed for the privilege of existing. Their logic was simple. We don't have a seat in your parliament, so why should we give you our money? The British response? Because we said so. Truly the parenting strategy of all time. This gave birth to the rallying cry, no taxation without representation. It's basically the 18th century version of disputing a charge on your credit card. Except instead of calling customer service, you formed a secret society and started planning a revolution. The Sons of Liberty began organizing, and their version of protesting involved a lot less social media and a lot more tar, feathers, and extremely angry men in dark taverns who had absolutely nothing to lose. Escalation, Boston and beyond. By 1770, Boston was a powder keg just waiting for someone to show up with a match and absolutely zero self-control. British soldiers were stationed everywhere. Tensions were sky high, and the locals were done being polite about it. Then the Boston Massacre happened. It started as a crowd hurling ice, rocks, and insults at British soldiers. So less of a snowball fight and more of a full mob situation. And it ended in a funeral. 5 people dead. Now, an engraving of the scene had originally been drawn by an artist named Henry Pelham. Paul Revere, ever the opportunist, copied that design and got it published first. That image showed the British firing in a neat, organized line into a helpless crowd, which was, to put it diplomatically, a creative interpretation of events. Was it propaganda? 100%. But to be fair, 5 people really did die. Revere just made sure the whole world knew about it in the most dramatic way possible. Honestly, respect the hustle. And then came the Tea Act. Britain, in a moment of staggering political blindness, thought, we'll just lower the price of tea and they'll be too happy to revolt. Bless their hearts. The real problem wasn't the price. The Tea Act handed the British East India Company a full monopoly over the colonial tea trade, completely wiping out local merchants and smugglers who had built their livelihoods on exactly that business. So, in December 1773, the Boston Tea Party happened. A group of men threw on disguises, marched onto ships, and dumped 342 chests of tea into the harbor. That's roughly 46 tons of tea. Into the ocean, cold, salty, wasted. The British East India Company lost the equivalent of nearly $2 million. All because someone didn't want to read the room. The point of no return. King George III was, to put it mildly, not pleased. Parliament passed the Intolerable Acts. And look, when your own government names something the Intolerable Acts, you have already lost the PR battle before it even begins. Boston Harbor was shut down. He figured, if they want to act like children, I'll punish the whole room. Classic move. Terrible execution. The plan backfired spectacularly. The other colonies watched Massachusetts get bulldozed and had one collective thought. Oh, so we're next. Nothing unites people faster than a common enemy, and Britain had just volunteered for the role. In 1774, the First Continental Congress gathered in Philadelphia, not to declare war, but to figure out if there was still any way to fix this peacefully. Spoiler, there wasn't. The bridge back to normal life was already on fire and someone had hidden the extinguisher. Tensions were reaching their absolute limit, and in the town of Lexington, a group of colonial militiamen, who had been drilling and preparing for months, were about to come face to face with British troops on a misty April morning. Someone was about to pull a trigger that would echo around the world. The revolution wasn't just coming. It had already started. And in part 2, we find out what happens when a ragtag group of farmers, merchants, and idealists decide to go to war with the greatest empire on earth. No pressure.